How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 12 of the Z Roll podcast. We are your hosts, Justin and Lacey Zachman, where we explore life's adventures together.
Whew.
Yeah, I know. Number 2.
Yes.
Yes, not number like 1, not like bathroom talk. His second.
Yes. Number 2.
Oh my gosh.
This is our second episode this year, you guys.
Oh,
applause.
Yeah,
we're back.
It sounds so bad out loud. We have recorded 2 podcasts in an entire year. But you know what? At least it's 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we're kind of getting back in the swing. We got a plethora of ideas, and we just are starting to add them to the calendar. Yeah, you'll see us more. So, yes. But today, we are talking about, well, actually, it's a segment that we have created, and it's called Topic Talks.
Yes.
And so once in a while on our podcast, we're going to do these topic talks. And basically, we ask you guys a question, and you guys answer the question over on our Instagram. And by the way, if you don't follow us on Instagram, head over to our Z Roll. And but basically, guys, answer the question, and then we talk about your responses, and then we will also talk about, our answers to the question as well. So today's topic is, what do you hope your adult children will say about you?
Yes. We did not come up with this on our own.
No.
This was an idea from actually one of our friends, Adam Legg. So thank you, Adam.
They also have a podcast as well that we'll link in the show notes.
It's awesome.
But yeah, we just thought it'd be kind of fun to do these once in a while.
Yeah.
Like, we love it when we have friends or family over and we sit in our living room. We usually brew coffee. Is what we do.
Yeah.
And then we just talk about life, and sometimes just topics come up, and then we just talk about them. So but this is kind of a deep topic.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, for me, it's like I start thinking about, wow, am I, like, okay, let's talk about this.
Okay.
You know when someone asks you a question, but the only way to answer that question is ask another question?
Yes.
So for me, to answer this question, I'm like thinking of another question.
That is.
Was that confusing?
Nope, I'm following.
Okay, that is, are you the adult that you want your child to grow up to be? So I'm like, am I being the person that I want my kid to be?
Yeah.
It's deep.
It is deep, and it is.
Kind of gets you thinking.
It is, and it gets you down in that area, which we all, if you're a parent, that mom guilt, the dad guilt, you can get into.
I was going to say, I don't have the mom guilt, but I do, in fact, have the dad guilt.
Yes, we definitely talk about that,
I mean, sometimes we lay in bed. Like, let us know if you're in the same boat here, but like, we'll lay in bed after just one of those evenings, the bedtime, and it's just, everyone is just out of control. Yeah. For whatever reason. I don't understand if it's what they're taught.
Do kids get so crazy right before bed? I don't
know. So my parents actually said that they called it the last hurrah. Like Justin Zachman, little Justin, little Justin, was all exhausted, ready for bed.
Yeah.
And right when it was like time to get my pajamas on, I just turned into this little like demon.
Just running laps, screaming, knocking things over. It's almost like they know.
Last night was nuts.
They were all 3 of them. I don't know.
Nuts.
It's almost like they know I'm going to have to go in my bed and calm my body and be quiet. So I'm just going to let it all out.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
But anyways, after those nights, we lay in bed and we're just kind of like, oh man, I wish we were blank. I wish
I should have been more patient.
Right.
I shouldn't have said that. And I didn't listen very well.
It's always just, after 2, they fall asleep and you go back in the room and you look at them and they just look all precious and you're like, why wasn't I more patient? You know what I mean? Someone said a long time ago to me, they said, the fact that you are intentional and you're thinking about it shows that you're a good parent.
Like you're aware.
You're aware of it.
You're aware of it. Yeah. You're not thinking, well, I was a great parent today. I did nothing wrong. Yeah. They deserve that. You know what I mean?
The fact that you take ownership and you want to do better, I think is huge. This is the thing. My mom and dad always took ownership when they were wrong. Okay? And so when I was growing up, if they, lost their patience or whatever, they would be the first ones to be like, hey, look, I'm sorry. And I just think in your failures, you can teach your kid something huge.
Right.
Because my parents took ownership when they were wrong, it taught me to take ownership, not in just when I'm wrong, but other things in life. When I've dropped the ball in situations or whatever, I will be like the first person to be like, hey, look, I dropped the ball. That was my fault, you know? And that's huge. I want my kids to take ownership. I don't want them to do the blame game their whole life.
And that's the thing I was going to bring out, because I was thinking then it just shows them like, hey, you know, my mom, my dad, you know, two people I look up to and love that are like my heroes. Like, they make mistakes too.
Yeah.
They're not, you know, perfect. And then it makes it like they're relatable.
Yeah.
I think when a parent puts down that wall to be, not saying like, oh, be a buddy with your friend, like be a parent, but when they can become relatable in the sense where they can apologize for something they did wrong and they can see that's huge, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that teaches them a lot right there. I know for me, you know, that's what it was. It's now I look in the mirror and be like, hey, that was my problem. I'm not going to blame. There's so many people that just, our culture likes to play the blame game. It's their fault. It's his fault. It's her fault. It's this fault. No, I think actually it's time for you to look in the mirror and be like, it's on me.
Yeah.
And I think that's something for our kids. I want them to you know, Michael Jackson, you know, Man in the Mirror.
But that was totally not the tune.
I mean, we might get a copyright strike for that. That was pretty intense. But that's the thing. I think I want our kids to be able to look at the situation and they take ownership for whatever that is.
Yeah.
We all fail, but I think we can use our failure for teachable moments.
Yeah.
So always looking at situations where it could be a teachable moment.
Right.
And so you can take the mom guilt and take the dad guilt and be like, okay, we have it. We should have been more patient. Yes, we should have. But now it's okay. We did it. It's been done.
Right.
So now how can we make this a teachable moment?
And like, don't pretend like you didn't do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. Acknowledge it.
Yeah.
What we're going to start with though is we're going to go through and talk about what you guys said.
Yeah.
Like we shared about on our Instagram. You guys commented and said your answers to what you hope your adult children will say about you, which I've already read through some of these. Very emotional.
Yeah.
I got a little teary.
Okay. If you want to be part of the conversation, if you want to maybe recommend another topic for our topic talks, you can actually go in the show notes if you're listening and text us what that would be, or if you just have some feedback or whatever. Also, comment on YouTube if you're watching this, because we film this as well. So if you're watching it, just comment below. We love it when you guys interact with us. It's our favorite thing.
I was going to say, happy anniversary, babe.
Oh, yeah. It's our 14th anniversary today.
Yes, it is.
How
so we're filming a
appropriate.
podcast on our anniversary. It's just how the cookie crumbled.
It's how the cookie crumbled. But it's actually kind of cool because our kids are,
it's
a massive part of our life.
Topic to talk about.
Yeah. So I think it's appropriate for the time.
All right. So I will read first. Again, I'm going to just say the question. Our question was, what do you hope your adult children will say about you? So this is G Back Adventures. And they said that my husband and I were a team, that we were a good mix of fun and strict, and we mentored. That's really good.
That's really good.
Love the team part.
I was gonna say that
so much. Let's talk about that.
Okay, there's a lot in this. There's a lot in this answer, and I like it.
Okay.
So let's dissect it.
Yes.
Okay, that we're a team. I love that.
I do too. I think that's huge with kids when they know mom and dad are going to be in agreement.
Yeah.
Yes, and they're unified.
It makes them feel secure.
Yes, absolutely. And I would never want my kids to feel like, I mean, come on, there are some things they know when to go to mom for and to dad. But, in general, though, like we're going to, hey, mom, can I have a cookie? No, but the big things, like mom and dad are going to be on the same page, especially like thinking about our kids are not here yet. But those of you that have kids that are teenagers, and you're getting to the point with like making that decision if they should have a cell phone or driving, those things that are crucial.
What's a cell phone?
And mom's like, yeah, and dad's absolutely not, and as a kid, it's like, well, which one is it, So knowing that your parents are on the same page, on a team, I love that.
I think, okay, how do you get on the same page? I think it's communication. Obviously, communication is key. But really, it takes a lot of communication to make sure you're on the same page.
Yeah.
Because we can say something, but we can perceive it different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that can come out, and so I think like making sure that we talk about not just being on the same page, but being and not being on the same sentence, not even the same word, but the same letter. It's the dumb thing. But we've always said that since we were married. Let's make sure that we are on the same letter on the page.
Yes.
Because
many times miscommunication comes in and we are on a completely different books.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's that, but sometimes we are on the same book, but we're perceiving it different.
Right.
But as far as being on the same team, just the whole security that happens. And so when your kids know that mom and dad agree, it just gives this sense of like, all is good. You know what I mean? Even if they don't like what you're agreeing on.
Right.
I mean, at least there's not this, this thing where it's like, well, I would let you, but your dad said no.
Right.
And it's just like, maybe you're trying to build a friendship with your kid or whatever, but end of the day, that does not make your kids feel secure.
No, not at all. And you're putting the other one in a bad view, a light.
Oh, so, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, and then also that we're a good mix of fun and strict.
I think that's such a good thing to say, like balance in the home. Just knowing it's not a home where the kids run it, and it's also not just like a stressful household or sad. You have a fun, lighthearted culture in your home as well.
Sometimes you can be one-sided. You know what I mean? You can be way too strict, or you can just be like, oh, whatever. And so that balance is huge because you're teaching your kids balance.
Right.
And the thing is kids like it when there's rules. They won't admit that, but they like structure. They need structure at this age.
Absolutely. Yes.
And when it talks about...
As a teacher, I can attest to that in the classroom.
And then also when it talks about mentoring, that's huge too, because a mentor is someone that just comes alongside and uses, like we talked about, failures or situations as teachable moments.
Yeah.
And then being able to be that. So that way it's like almost like, hey, look, like, how could we have done this better?
Right.
Like, there was a time when I came home and Lannon put Dawn soap in the hot tub. And there was just like bubbles everywhere. He was just trying to clean the hot tub, And so I looked at that, and there could have been two scenarios. I could have just been like, are you serious? Like, this is going to take me forever to clean. I got to drain this, whatever. And then just completely just like get on the guy. Or I could, or what I did is I realized, wait, I've never told him that was not a good thing to do.
Right. That was like not one of our rules in the household, not to put Dawn soap in the hot tub.
I mean, there's some things that's common sense, and we can talk about that. But this was one of those things where he was just trying to clean the hot tub. So when he thinks of cleaning, he thinks of soap. And so for him, he was trying to do the right thing, but then he obviously knew it was the wrong thing to do. Yeah. The fact that there were suds everywhere, he's just like, his eyes are big. So it wasn't a thing where you just keep on like getting down on him, because he's already understands what's going on. Yeah. So it's more of like, hey, look, you didn't know this, you're not in trouble. Like, it's just so you know next time. If you do it again next time, then you're going to be in trouble. There'll be a consequence because you know. But this time, like, this is what happens, Right. And it was a teachable moment. It was fun. We cleaned it up together, and it was a good thing. But I think mentoring is using situations as teachable moments.
Right. And I think those are the ones that really stick out. Oh, yeah. So much in my childhood as well.
All in One family said, I love the memories you made for us. I love that. I think that there are so many memories that I have had growing up, and there's memories that you have had growing up. And I totally want that for our kids. I want us to be able to sit down, at Thanksgiving dinner when they're all old and be like, remember because we do that. My sister and I do that all the time with my parents. Yeah. And remember the time. Yes. Yeah. And what's crazy about that though is like, what are the memories that's going to stick?
The stories that always get brought up.
That's what's crazy, because I think sometimes we think that there's memories that, for sure they're going to remember, but they don't. But there's those memories that they remember that you're like, why do you remember that? That was so low key. Yeah. But that's just the thing. That's why I think using every moment as a teachable moment is crucial. Yeah. Like, to be able to walk our kids through that, because we don't know what's going to be a memory maker for them.
That's true.
You just don't know.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's interesting to think, like, what is it that our boys, and Junie are going to remember, when they get older, like, and they're adults and we're sitting around the table at Thanksgiving and they're like, hey, Dad, remember this? Or Mom, remember that? Because it's just interesting. One of the stories that gets brought up sometimes with just like my brothers and sisters in my family. We went to Disneyland a lot as kids growing up, but one trip that I remember was because of an incident that happened with my dad, and we always laugh about it, but we were on Tom Sawyer's Island, and we were in like the caves, and he like scalped his head so bad because he was like crawling around in there, and just like a ton of hair came off the top of his head. And I was really, really young for this one, but I still remember that. And he was bleeding, and it was sunny, so he had to like get something to put on the top of his head because he would like burn his head. But we were just like, we laughed about that forever, and still like me and my sister will talk about that and joke about it, and just things like that that happen. I don't know. Just
do you remember anything else from that trip?
Nothing.
See, that's the thing that's crazy.
Not a thing. I don't remember anything they bought me. I don't remember anything I did. You know what I mean? I don't remember where we stayed, but I remember that.
And if you're watching the podcast, the sun was coming in, so we had to get our blinds up.
Resituate some things. My coffee is now gone.
Yeah, actually both of our coffees are gone. I don't even know where my coffee went. Oh, I left it up there.
I just finished drinking all of mine.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we're back. So concluding I love the memories you made for us. I love that. And I hope that our kids as well will sit around like we do with our parents and be like, oh, remember that time,
Good old days.
But it's just interesting that like we're living in memory,
Right.
Like today could be a memory. That will be locked in for the rest of their life. And
when
we just don't know.
Adults telling their kids.
Yeah.
I know, isn't that?
It's interesting.
It's bizarre to
think.
And
I think like when you're talking about the whole thing with your dad in Disneyland, which by the way is hilarious, and I'm gonna bring that up to your dad.
Have I ever told you that?
I think I've heard bits and pieces, but not that the whole story. That's hilarious. But like that was a horrible thing that happened. But it's funny that you remember that. And, and it's kind of like it's funny.
It was.
So I'm just thinking of like the things really like we talk about this a lot on vacation. The times when it's like. Maybe it's not going according to plan, but if you push through, it's usually like that. That's what you remember. It's a memory.
Yeah, and being able to laugh it off a little bit sometimes.
If we learn to like the other question we talked about, like mentor and talk with our kids and bring it into like a positive light or whatever the case may be, a teachable moment, it could turn into actually a really good thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of cool.
That's good.
Anyway, next question.
All right. This one is Holton Fam times 5. They said that we taught/showed them to love people and to love the Lord. Absolutely. That's awesome. Is one of ours as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like, we're told to love our God with all of our heart, mind, and soul. And I think if we learn to love God that way with everything, it puts everything in perspective.
Yeah.
And then that's how we can love others. But the thing that we say all the time is love God, love people.
Right. And I love this one so much because this is something we want to instill in our kids. I mean, we start from, Junie's age to just, treating people with kindness and loving people. But when we bring the Lord into it, it's a whole different ballgame when we talk about the way the Lord loves us and, showing that to our kids, which actually I'm going to bring up a little story. I don't think I didn't talk about bringing this up, but we've talked about it when it happened. But Landon, the other day, he got in trouble for some things he did. And in the evening, he said he was, Jess and I were talking to him about it and working through it. And later he told me, how did he word it? He's like, Mom, are you going to get rid of me? Are you and Dad can get rid of me? And I was like, Landon, why would you even say that? He's like, well, I've just been so bad. And I said, well, would Jesus ever do that? I said, we make mistakes every day. Mom and Dad make mistakes. Would Jesus ever not forgive us? And he said, no. I said, well, Mom and Dad will never do that with you. We'll always be here for you. We will always forgive you. There's nothing you can do that's going to take away our love, just same with Jesus. And I think just, representing, how the Lord loves us to our kids is such a cool thing, which is unconditional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think with kids, it's just, that's huge for them to know, no matter what I do, my parents are still going to love me.
Yeah. And I think in order to really demonstrate that is, again, like God has to be number one in our life.
Yeah.
Like God has to be number one before like your marriage, before your kids, before your work, whatever. And because it puts like the proper balance. If you love God with all of your heart, mind, and soul, it puts everything else in perspective. And I think that's what gets lost in translation is that perspective. And so you can try to be putting your kids first or your job first or your your spouse first, whatever, but that doesn't work at the end of the day. Like if God's first, everything else kind of balances out in the right perspective.
Right.
And that's how we love people.
Right.
Because if you don't love God with everything, how in the world are you supposed to love people? And how are you supposed to be an example to your kids to love people?
Right.
But man, it's just important that we have God number one in our life. That I always say that we have staff meeting with God in the morning, you know, just kind of having our devotion and being filled, because I mean, I need him to help me be a leader to my kids. Like I need to make sure he's number one in order to demonstrate how to love people. I mean, I just don't know how people do it without him. I don't.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. So I love that.
Yes,
Another
absolutely.
one, actually Mario, one of my buddies, he said, Dad was a good example of Jesus. I love that. That is the number one thing I want to pass on to our kids is faith. You know, is that Dad had a relationship. They saw Dad being in the Word. They saw Dad praying. They saw Dad serving, you know, others. They saw, you know, but then it becomes their own relationship.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they understand that it's their own relationship.
We've given them that foundation in our home, but they make
can
it their
see
own.
Yeah, and they make it their own, and we show them how to make it their own. But really, ultimately, it has to click for them. This is why I love doing youth ministry, because I get to see all the time when it clicks with the kid. That's like, oh, it's my own relationship with the Lord. It's not because they go to church or they do this or that, and it's their own relationship.
They've made that decision for themselves that they want to now follow Christ and have that relationship. And it is so cool to see that. And I mean, that's our prayer and hope for our kids as well. All right, this one it's Megan Lynn. I hope that they're grateful we gave them a life of experiences versus a life of nice things.
I like that.
Really like that.
Yep. It goes back to like the memory thing, you know, and the experience. I mean, that's, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't remember a lot of things that I got, like, you know, material things.
Right.
I remember getting the iPod. I remember that. That was a
big deal.
That was a big deal. Because it was like, I remember like going to iTunes and putting all my CDs and like burning them.
Right. You're like, I can get rid of these, man.
Yeah, I remember experiences. Again, when bad things happen. I remember that. Like, I remember going to Canada with my parents and our car broke down. And we were stuck at Lake Louise for like 3 days. But what a beautiful place to get stuck in.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's just...
You bring up that trip a lot, and you guys had a really fun time.
It was a fun time. It was... Obviously, it was... If I was in my parents' situation, there was a lot of unknown. They didn't have the part. There was all this stuff. But to my parents' credit, they made the best out of it.
Right.
They didn't get frantic and freak out. And
I
think about that.
Yeah, right.
As a parent now, when you're supposed to have this great vacation... Because we didn't finish out all the stops we wanted to finish. Yeah. We had to go home. Yeah. We actually went home. Yeah. But it was one of our favorite family vacations. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm just going to steal all of you guys'. Is that okay? I want to say that too. Like, I really would hope our kids to say, like, I'm so grateful, you know, of the things we did together. Not the cost of things, and not, you know, well, we didn't have as big of a backyard as our friends, or we didn't have this, we didn't have that, you know, and I don't think it's going to be that kind of a case when we're creating that culture of, you know, making memories and experiences with our kids with small things. Like, you know, just... I think of another thing you guys did is you guys did pajama runs as kids. Oh, yeah, we've incorporated that with our kids, where they get to go in the car in their pajamas and go get ice cream.
It's a surprise. They don't know. So like, it's time for bed, right? They go to bed, and then we yell out, pajama run. And then they get to go in to the car. We haven't done that for a while because Junie...
I have to have a pajama. I know. I'm not getting her out of bed.
We did it more when Junie wasn't there. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we go to ice cream or something. Yeah. It's fun. But
yeah.
But what I was thinking too is, it's funny. Like we do some trips that are fun, and there's trips that are more expensive than others. But sometimes when you think of experiences, sometimes we think of like, you know, they have to be these huge trips or these huge things. But man, no, it's like sometimes it's just the simplest things. Like I remember the time when Dad sprayed me with the hose and we got in a water fight. Right. That was free. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's not about the money again. Yeah. It's not about like how big the vacation is. It's just being in the moment. I want my kid to be like, Dad was always in the moment. You know what I mean?
That's a good one.
He was he was there. He listened. He was in the moment. Like, we love it when people are just
present. Yeah.
You know, I hate it when you're talking to someone and they're like thinking about something completely different and you're just like, why am I even talking to you? Like, I just want to be in the moment.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay. Yep. Next one.
Okay.
Soldier52 said, above all else, that we loved and supported everything he wanted to do, then how silly dad could be.
The support of your parents, you know?
It's huge.
That's so huge. No matter what they decide to be or what college they, you know what I mean? There's always that pressure, you know, that you can put on kids on what they should do. But just knowing you got my support.
And I love how silly dad could be. I love that. Because that's, you know, again, it goes back to that one question of just like, you know, we have like basically a culture of having, you know, fun and strict. And I think, man, you can get through a lot when you have a sense of humor. You know what I mean? You can. Yeah. You can get through so much having a good sense of humor. There's just times when all you can do is laugh. Like you can't take yourself seriously anymore. You just need to let it go and just laugh.
Right.
It's beyond, you know what I mean? You can continue getting stressed about it, or it's like, you know what, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know?
And
I don't know.
Yeah. And I think about just things that kids ruin in your house.
Oh my gosh.
And you're just like, oh man, that used to really stress me out, you guys. The honest moment with Lacey right now. That was one of my hardest things from like when I first entered parenthood 8 years ago.
Me too.
Is when kids, like Landon was the first one to break me in, man. Ruining stains in the carpet. You would think that my husband would have broke me in with that one, but I still. Carpet stains and just messes, breaking things. You know, I would just get so stressed out.
Yeah.
And now by the third child, 8 years later, I'm just like, we just laugh now. We're like, well, done.
When first time parent versus having three now, it's like
chill out
you just chill out. I never thought when you're first time parent, you'd be like, I would never chill like that. It's like you will.
You will.
Oh
just
my
wait.
gosh.
And then get a dog on top of it, man.
Yeah, it's just like whatever. But I love the chaos though. You start loving the chaos.
A little bit.
Because it's your family.
Some days I don't.
I mean, I guess that's true. It just depends.
Okay, this next one is Jenny Hooten. She was courageous and took risks. And when she failed, it was worth it.
Oh, yeah.
That's so good.
Good.
Like I said, we're just going to take all of you guys. No, honestly, though, being courageous and like taking risks, especially I think with kids, and you're in the stage of life, you start getting, you know, like where we're at 30s, 40s, it is scary to take more risks because you have a family to think about with certain things, depending on, you know, what that risk is. Yeah. So, but there are times that we have done that and it's been good. And I'm glad we have, but...
And there's times we failed, but, like, it's like, you know, I would never want to be someone who's in their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And never takes chances.
Right.
You know, like, I would never want that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that there's going to be times you fail, but again, it's a teachable moment.
Right.
For your kid, because you can be like, look, didn't go according to plan,
mm-hmm.
you know, but at least we took the risk. And we learned. You always learn when you fail.
And so much... creativity comes out of that. So many things like that you realize that, you know, you enjoy from taking risks because, you know, well, for me, I'm just going to say one thing I did, as I would say in that area, would be going back to school when we had kids, when we had Landon and Tucker. I was actually pregnant with Tucker. I went back to school to finish my degree for teaching. And I was so proud of myself because I think I did have one of those moments of just, I have every excuse in the world. I'm like, I'm working, I've got 2 kids, I don't have time to be doing part-time school. And I'm so proud of myself because it's something I wanted to do and I did it and it was really cool. We actually have a vlog of it. We went and took the boys to my graduation ceremony in Arizona and they got to watch mommy graduate. But it was really cool that, you know, I got to do that. And I think, you know, it's something too that, you know, I think at the time the boys were pretty young, but they can see now that I did that. And I don't know. I'm proud of myself for doing that one.
You should be.
Sure.
I mean, that's what's crazy about it is you took the risk because I remember going back and forth. It's like, should we really do this? Like it's really busy, you know, and
oh my gosh, it was so busy.
It was busy, but I mean, it's even more busier now. So
I know, but I remember though, like I had Tucker And right after, I was like, the day after giving birth to him, I remember I was like writing a paper that was due. I was like, this is nuts. Yeah. But I finished and I got my degree. And
I just think of all the things in our life that we're even doing now, like this podcast, for example, like our YouTube channel and our business and stuff. Like, it was all because of taking a risk. Yeah. I mean, it just was. Like, right. A lot of our stuff, like our ministries, things we do for our church and all that, it was all about, like, okay, stepping out in faith. Like, realizing that, okay, if God's called us into this, we're going to...
He'll see us through.
He'll see us through.
Right.
And
he has.
And he has. But I love that. I hope our kids see us risk takers and also courageous. And if we do fail, we've learned from the failure. Because that's huge, is teaching a kid how to learn from failure. Yeah. Not to get down on themselves, not to, like, never get back on the bike again. Right. But to get back on the bike. Get back up. Yeah.
For sure. And I think with Landon, with football now, being in sports, he's been like, we've been talking to him a lot about that and just shaking it off.
Shaking it off. I mean,
get back in there.
If I'm like, we're telling him, like, if you can learn to shake it off, if you threw an interception or if you had a bad play, to shake it off for the next play, like, if you can learn that now, you'll kill it. Right. But if we can learn that in our life, we can just shake it off and get back at it. Yeah. My gosh.
I still struggle with that.
Well, it's our brain. Yeah. I mean, we handicap ourselves. All right, next one is B. Hill's life. That I listened and they never felt like I was disappointed in them. Biggest cheerleader. That's huge. I mean, working in youth ministry, like, it's crazy how, like, kids just want to talk. They just want someone to listen
to them.
Yes. That's it. And it makes me think, like, okay, like, obviously they're not getting listened to. And that's it. And it's a battle, man. Yeah. Like, you're busy as it is. You're trying to make a living. You're trying to, what it is. We're all busy. And then having your kid just, like,
they want to tell you all about something that they did.
Yeah. But I don't want my kid ever, growing up and be like, yeah, my dad didn't really, like, listen. I tried to talk to him about stuff and he didn't really care. Yeah. He was into his own thing. Right. Ugh, yeah. That's huge.
Yes, I know.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, especially, like, the things I feel like I've heard so many times. And I'm just like,
oh, I know.
Okay, like, just be a good listener. Be intentional. So, like, after I hear it, think about, like, oh, and, like, how did you do that? Like, I ask them a good question to make them feel like I really am listening. It's intentional, man. It's hard to do. Yeah. But that's a good one. I'm thinking already about our daughter Juniper, because she's like, she says, like, mama, dada, but she is always, like, blabbing.
She'll be like, mama.
Yeah. Dad. And, like, full on, like, think she's talking. And I'm like, oh, no.
And she won't stop.
I'm going to have a daughter that has my husband's mouth. Okay. And never stops talking. Truly, though, if you guys know us, Justin is the Tucker of the family. But Junie, man, she just blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
This is going to be interesting.
And I love the part 2 where it says, never felt that I was disappointed in them. Because, like, there's times that we have to kind of redirect and stuff, but doing it in a way where we're, like it was said, biggest cheerleader. Right. Doing it in a way where it's like, hey, I'm on your side.
Yeah.
And I think
I know you can do better.
Yeah. And I think I want to be a parent that has my kid's best interest in mind. But yeah, it's important to cheer them on, to love on them, and make it feel that they are supported and that their mom and dad are, like, that a boy, Yeah. Just a bunch of attaboys,
Okay, this one is SM Road. And they said that we set a good example of a good partnership while also making time for ourselves. See, now this is where you got to go into that whole, like, we talked about earlier, the mom and dad guilt. We always talk about how important it is for Justin and I to get away. We try to do this once a year, just a trip, like, get away. But then once a week, we try to just get some coffee together, go, for a walk, just us time. And I think even those times parents can feel guilty because especially with young kids, you've got so much to do, and it's so important for us, for our marriage, but then in turn for the kids.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the relationship with our kids is better when we have our face-to-face time.
Yeah.
Like we're going to be leaving here pretty soon, actually really soon, to wrap this up, to go on a date and stuff.
Have time together.
And we always come back and we're just so much more intentional with our kids. But when we have time, refreshed, we have time to get away on vacation, we come back refreshed, renewed, and have a vision for our family and just everything else.
Yeah.
So I think that's
a really good one.
Really good one. But when you boil all this down, because there's so much to talk about, like we can talk about this forever. But I think to kind of like close this is, man, I want to model kindness and love and patience. You know, I want my kids to be able to share anything with me. You know what I mean? Like I don't want them to ever be afraid to share, even if it's a hard thing for them to have to share.
And something I've heard somebody say before is like, I want my kids to make as many mistakes as they can, like at home.
At home.
In the time where they have us to help, like nurture them and mentor them and help them learn, you know, from those mistakes. So that, you know, one day when we, you know, our kids are off on their own and, you know, we don't really have a say anymore, you know, there's going to be that time, you know, we're here for them. But I don't want to be those parents where, you know, they're 20, you know, some year olds or even married and, you know, because there are those parents and they're, you know, interfering in their adult kids' lives saying, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. It's like there comes to a point where it's like, okay,
cut the cord.
You're done unless they come to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so once they get to that point, you know, or before they get to that point and they're in the home, I'm like, I want them to make those mistakes so that we're here, we can talk through them. And they don't feel ashamed, like, I can't tell my mom and dad. I got to hide it all. You know, I want to be...
No, I hope that there's that relationship, you know, and it starts today. Like, it just does. You know, it starts... wherever you're at in your season, if your kids are older, younger, really young, just entering their teenage, whatever, it starts today.
Yeah.
You can start today.
Exactly.
And make changes. I hope my kids say, like, Dad was a hard worker. Like, I don't want my kids to ever be entitled. I want them to like understand what it is to work and to make the money and whatever, and to dream and to be creative and not be lazy. I hope my kids like, Dad was never lazy. Yeah. You know? But I want there to be a balance where Dad was still around for us, you know, intentional, but also he was a hard worker and, you know. Right. I don't know. I see so many kids who are entitled these days, and I'm just like, man, I don't want our kids to ever have any part of that. Right.
And I can say that, I mean, tooting my Justin's horn. But Justin is tooting. Does that make sense? I don't know. I don't even know what that means. I'm just saying, like, you are a very hard worker. And I'm just saying, like, my dad's a really hard worker. Like, I grew up with, like, I mean, he was a hard worker. Yeah, he was. And he taught me to work and my siblings to work. And he still is. And I think too, like, my dad laughs. He's like, Lacey, you married your dad in some ways, because Justin is like go, like hard worker type too. And I think that, I mean, I really respect that about my dad. And I think, you know, our kids will really respect that about you too, because it's like, you know, you're not only providing for our family, but you're also teaching them, you know, we don't just get everything handed to us. Like, we want to work for what we have, and we take care of what we have, and we're grateful because we do know, like, the Lord's really blessed us too, and he takes care of us. But we also got to work hard for things, you know. And it's like, you got to put in the sweat. Like, things are not going to just get handed to you in life. So I think that is a huge lesson. All right, we're going to try to wrap this up and just kind of conclude a few last thoughts of what we hope our kids will say about us when they grow up. But you guys, I loved all of yours, like, so much. Those were really good. And we didn't even get to read everybody's. So they were great. But just to wrap it up, honestly, I'm going to share just kind of my thoughts, and then you want to share a little bit of yours? Okay. I really want our kids to say that my parents were hard workers. I think both of us too. Yeah. Worked really hard and taught us that. Also, my parents were a team. Like, they were, I love that one you guys shared earlier too, but especially with us, I think, because we work together with our business and with ministry, we've had to learn a lot of just the dynamics of that. And it's not easy, but that, you know, we've had to work through a lot of things, but that they saw that and see like my parents were a good team.
Yeah.
And they made time for each other. Also that they said, you know, they loved us unconditionally and they loved Jesus and others. Mm-hmm. So those are a few things that come to my mind, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, mine are very similar. You know, that we loved God with everything. Like he was number one.
Yeah.
And that was our priority.
Yeah.
Because knowing that if that's the priority, it balances everything out. Mm-hmm. I think that words are cheap. And so I hope our kids say, like, Dad didn't just say he loved us, but he showed it. Mm-hmm. Like, I hope that is what comes across, where my parents showed us that they loved us. They showed us that they listened to us. They showed us what it was to work. They show, you know, these examples. Like, we don't just say, hey, yeah, do this, do that, but we're doing it with them. Mm-hmm. And because talk is cheap.
Yeah.
Like, visual examples of us just doing those things.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. There's that, that, you know, mom and dad love people. We're compassionate. Mm-hmm. We're authentic, genuine.
Like they were who they were.
Yeah. Like,
wherever they went.
It's sad to me
two-faced
to know that there are a lot of families where it is the two-faced. It's one way here, one way there.
Yeah.
And ugh.
That's all I can say to that.
I hope our kids are like, man, like, yeah, mom and dad were the same at home and when they were around their friends and they were wherever.
Yeah.
And being courageous, taking risks, all of that. Anyway, there's a lot. This is a good episode.
This is a hard episode.
It's a hard episode because it's like, where do we start? Like, I think there's just, I think it's just a good, you know, topic of conversation. This is why we do topic talks.
Yeah.
Because we don't really know. We don't have all the answers. We're just in this talking about these topics and we're like, I don't.
Right. And I didn't want to go off on too many tangents because we so easily could do that with this topic. I thought of a million different things. I'm like, no, let's not go down there. You know, and so
well, I guess we'll see how this turns out. I don't know. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Again, if there's another topic you want us to talk about, you can text us in the show notes, or you can just comment below if you're watching this on YouTube. But there it is. There's our first topic talk.
Yes.
That was a lot of fun. It's a lot for us to think about right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be, after we are done and we head to dinner, we're probably going to be talking about this.
Unpacking it a little bit. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And this is why I think this is kind of fun to do this together. But anyway, hopefully this inspired you. Hopefully there's some things that you're like, oh man, that's, you know, I want to start being intentional today with. I know there's some things for me. I'm like, I want to start today on that.
Same.
And also, one more thing, if you like this podcast and if you're listening to it on Apple, please give us a review. It'll actually help our podcast quite a bit, and we would love to read those reviews as well. If you listen to it on Spotify, you can, like, you know, give us stars, and 5 stars are always the best. But for sure, Apple, if you could review it, that'd be awesome. And then we'll share those reviews at the end of the episode as well. Anyways, guys, we love you, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.